So I'm driving again, and we'll see if I can do this time. I always just start and then I quit in the middle because it just sounds too crazy, and I know how many assholes are going to leave comments about how I'm mentally ill and whatever. And it's all true. What I'm about to say is all true. Shockingly. So, I don't know, I've mentioned it a lot of places before in comments and stuff, but my best friend, who I have known since preschool in the Florida Keys, we didn't become really good friends until about, I don't know, I was like 4th grade, but I mean, we'd been in the same Girl Scout troop. I've known her for our whole life. We've known each other. And I was really close with her family. I've lived with them before for like a few months when she wasn't even living there. I just stayed with them when I wanted to visit the Keys again after I'd moved away. I was homesick. I stayed with them. So I'm really close with these people, and this girl, that my friend, she's like, I've always considered her like a twin, like a soul twin or something. I didn't even have words for it. We're just so close, and my best friend in the whole world. But in about, late 2015, she'd been having like a lot of problems, in the couple years leading up to this point, which is like I said, late 2015, around the holidays. Weird things, just out of nowhere. She'd always been like the more functional, I always thought she was like the more functional, normal one between the two of us, but just some really strange things started happening in her life. It seemed just like her life was falling apart, and she was never on drugs or anything, so that was the really weird part. But eventually, I'd started getting, I had become aware of a lot of these, conspiracies, so they're called, and I came across the work of a woman named Svali, SvaliSpeaks.net. I had never given any credence to this whole idea of like Illuminati, MK Ultra, monarch programming. I was like one conspiracy theory I couldn't buy into because I didn't understand the point. It was all just so weird, like Satanism plus mind control. It just was just weird. I just couldn't get it. I just didn't understand the point of any of it. It just seemed like disinformation to me. It's the only way I could put it. When I realized that Pizzagate was real, I decided I needed to look into this this MK Ultra thing, and this the Satanism aspect of programming and trauma-based mind control, and ritual abuse, because I realized with the whole Pizzagate thing, people just don't all happen to want to have sex with kids. And also, the idea that it's all for blackmail, that didn't even fly with me, because enough people in enough powerful positions that were just, naturally just grossed out by, pedophilia. Eventually there would be they would put the kibosh on that being the blackmail thing, just because it's gross. It's oh, well, everybody has to eat poop because, for blackmail purpose. And nobody wants to eat the poop. And so eventually, even people on opposing teams, they just agree that okay, well, how about we just not do the poop eating thing for the blackmail? How about we I don't know, gay sex, something, anything, because a lot of people are just inherently revulsed, even if they're bad people. It just grosses them out, the idea of having sex with children. It's just not appealing. So kind of like eating poop. So, but I realized there had to be something else to it, more to it than just blackmail and all the or just everybody just happens to be pedophiles, So I looked into it, and I looked at Svali's work, and my jaw just dropped. I read that whole website. She did such a good job. And I realized, because she was describing, what an Illuminati family is, what they look like, what they're like. And I was like, I'll be damned. I had no idea, but my friend's family, that's what they were. And I never knew. Like, I just thought they were kind of, like, like I knew, like, at least for her on her mom's side, her mom's side of the family believed that they were magic by blood. And I believe that's like the exact words Svali used, like, like one of the aspects of an Illuminati family. Well, there was also just always these super important people that were like connected and in and out of my friend's life, and like her family just knew like all these really powerful, important people, like, Stephen King. Her grandmother on her mom's side, she was supposedly like a journalist, but like she would fly around the world and like be present when like they would open pyramids. And she was just, she just worked for the Fayetteville Observer, and she knew all these famous people. And she was a witch. Like I had known ever since I was a kid that her grandmother was a witch, and that she had, my friend had told me that her grandmother had used her in rituals, which I thought was cool when I was little. Like, I didn't know better. I thought that was just cool. Like, I wish my granny was a witch. Like, I just, the idea of, oh, like, wow, it would be really cool to think that you had like magic powers just by blood. Like that whole charm thing, and the craft, was popular when I was young. And, I just thought that I was into it. I was like, trying to be like a little Wiccan when I was in 4th grade, which, but by the way, God saved me. So, man, he really covered my ass with that one, because I was into that for about a year, and nothing creepy. I was just trying to do like what they did in the craft, like I just wanted to do that kind of stuff. And I kept getting these, adult books, like Wiccan books, and I was just getting really irritated by like the amount of times a spell would call for me to be naked with like a bunch of other people, and I didn't ever do that. I didn't have a coven. I was 9. I was like, that's weird. Like, why do they always want us to get naked, and like take baths together? And, they would also make you invoke all these gods and goddesses. And even though I was like an atheist, even like by like 9, I just laughed at the idea of a female god. Like, that was the most ridiculous thing. And I just thought maybe like magic was like a hack, or like some type of science we didn't understand, that like tricked our brain into manifesting realities. So, and I always was trying to get around like the part where I had to like believe in these gods or call on them, or I was so annoyed by that. But then like at one point I remember getting this like voice inside me. I was like, wait, what if I'm being tricked? Because somehow I was an atheist that believed in like demons and shit. I don't even know. I believed in demons and like pretty much everything like evil, but I don't know. I was afraid to believe in God. I felt like I'd be getting my hopes up. And some like little voice in me just said, like, what if this is all just a big trick to let demons in? And that was like the same thing with the Ouija board. Like, why I played with it a couple times as a kid, and then like something told me like throw it out, like get rid of it, like just don't ever have one of those in your house again. And that's what I did. And I got really lucky because, she knew that I was into Wicca and stuff, and she was actually my friend. She was even like pretending to like that I was teaching her about it, which is hilarious. And I'm just really lucky that like her family didn't try to draw me into anything. I was blessed. I was protected. My family were believers, and my grandfather, it's a long story, but he's a bloodliner, and he was in the Freemasons, and he renounced it all in his 30s. And I truly believe God honored that his righteousness, his righteous decision to do that, because nobody like leaves the Freemasons. Like I guess you can, but he was very high level, and I won't get into all that right now. But basically, God was protecting me for his sake while I was under the age of accountability and under the headship of my family. Even though I was the one rejecting the gospel and everything, I was protected, and I do truly believe that's why her family could never do anything with me. They never harmed me, even though so many other kids in my hometown were getting, ritually abused and programmed. She's not the only one, I've since learned. Anyway, but yeah, so I didn't know what I was seeing as a kid. Because they don't have fangs and horns and seem like bad people. Her parents, I swear, they were like, I loved them so much, especially her father. you know, and I still love him, even though I know, like, there's, like, some other side. I don't know if it's, like, an altar, mini altars, you know, in his, you know, because he's also programmed. But I love her dad still so much. I just feel so bad for him. Her mom's the real wicked one, I feel. But the point is, I mean, you would never have thought so. Her mother seems like the nicest, most passive, just unassuming little hippie lady. I mean, she's just cute as a button. And I will say, a lot of these families, they seemed like boomer hippies, right? That's kind of like, at least where I'm from, that's what that was like this, how they came off. So a lot of the stuff that might have seemed weird, like, you just wrote off as they were just hippies, you know, like just hippie leftovers from the 60s. And you know, anyway, the more I read from Svali, you know, especially about what to look for in somebody who is a victim, like, who's been through this, like, ritually abused, born into one of these families. I mean, it was just my friend to a T. You know, the good and the bad. I mean, just, she was exceptionally brilliant, you know. But her life didn't make sense, you know, like, lots of things didn't make sense. Her family, like, they always had way more means than it would have appeared on the surface, because she was like 30 just about, and still had never had to have a job, and she'd, like, lived in England and all this. I had an apartment. She always footed the bill for all these boyfriends, you know, through her parents, but they seemed like just upper middle class, and you know, they always had no, like, they never wanted for any money, though, somehow. You know, I remember her dad, like, I got pulled over when I was 18 for driving without a license, so I was too scared to get a license, because I thought it would mean I would drive a lot, and I had had more than one close friend die in a car accident during high school, so I just thought if I didn't have a license, you know, I wouldn't drive, and one day I had to. Anyway, I clipped somebody and I got pulled over. You know, I got arrested for like a couple hours, and her dad found out, and he was mad that I didn't call him to get bailed out, and he was like, you know, I always have $5,000 in cash to you know, just for such an emergency. And that's what I mean, like, by how, like, great and how much I loved her dad. Like, I felt so, oh, it just made me feel so good that he would have done that for me, and, like, was mad that I didn't give him the opportunity, you know, because he was just awesome to me. Like, he always just, like, I felt like he was a friend. He was just great. And but I couldn't deny what I was seeing, like, you know, the parallels and all the just, it was the only thing that explained everything I had always known about her family and about her, you know. And, you know, I didn't want to, like, plant the idea in her head, you know, so I just linked her to the website, because, you know, we had been into conspiracies already for a while and talking about Pizzagate and stuff. So, you know, it wasn't like me sending her that link would have implied, like, I think that you're, you know, programmed multiple. Not at all. But she read it, you know, and then she texted me back, and she was like, wow. And I was like, yeah. I was like, hey, you know, I was wondering, why do you think it is, like, every time I've ever asked you about your mom's maiden name, like, for the, like, I don't know, it'd been like 10 years at least that since I'd gotten into genealogy, and, you know, could remember asking her, like, more than once over a 10-year period, about her mother's maiden name, like, 'cause she'd given me all of her dad's stuff. Like, I had done her dad's genealogy and found out he was, you know, related to the people that own Nantucket Island, and, you know, Moby Dick, all kinds of stuff, right? And but she wouldn't, I mean, of course I knew her dad's name because, you know, it was her last name, but anytime I would ask her about her mom's maiden name, she would change the subject, or just, like, somehow not answer me. And it's weird, because, like, my friend, the way she is she's the type of person, like, she wants to know all that cool stuff about her family. And, like, you know, she'd always told me of, like, you know, kind of like she had some cool ancestry. So it didn't make sense that she wouldn't have wanted me to do that research. It was just weird. She just would not answer. Like, I never thought she was refusing to answer. Just somehow she would avoid it, change the subject, whatever. And I asked her, I said, you know, why is that? Like, that you've never told me your mom's maiden name. And as soon as I asked her that question, it was like lightning struck. You know, she knew exactly what I was saying. And see, somewhere, I don't think it was Folly. I'm not sure where I'd read it, but I read that they hide their matrilineal ancestry. Like that's usually where a lot of the Illuminati blood will be, or like they try to hide that part of their ancestry, because like even if the dad, most likely has, and all like similar ancestry, like I guess it's always just more obvious in the mom's line. I'm not sure. I don't really know exactly why, but that's usually the part that they're secretive about. I guess also because they can be, because normally people don't know your mom's maiden name, and that like just triggered a whole lot of memories, because she said, oh my gosh, Angel, she goes, my boyfriend's mom like asked me that a couple weeks ago, and she goes, and I don't know why, I just lied. I told her the name of the street I grew up on, like that was my mom's maiden name. I lied about it, and I have no idea why I do that. I don't understand, why would I do that? I have no, and she's not like a secretive person at all. Well, as far as I knew. And she's so asking that question, and I asked it for a reason, because I had a feeling, as much of a novice as I was at all this, I had just a gut feeling that the one way to trigger or like to compromise someone's programming would be to ask them a question they couldn't logically explain, right? And that was the one I could think of, and that so I didn't have to imply anything to her, suggest anything to her. I just asked her that question, and then all this stuff came pouring out, and she told me, like, yeah, I mean, I told you that my grandmother used me and my little brother in rituals when I was a kid. And she'd also told me when we were younger that she felt like her grandmother, like, somehow sacrificed her and her brother, like, not like their lives, obviously, because they're alive, but like that she sacrificed something about them to gain power or youth or something like that, and that it was bad, right? Because I was thinking it was cool, that her grandmother was a witch and whatever, but and she, even when we were younger, it was like she was trying to make it clear to me that, like, it wasn't cool, it was, it was bad. She told me, like, I kind of tried to tell you these things before, but she goes, but she's like, I remember and then I forget. I remember about who I am and what my family is, and I forget, and she was a lot more emotional than this. I mean, it was not, I'm just trying to summarize, but, the really weird thing is she reminded me that when we were 11, she had told me, like, pretty much straight up, like, told me she was a mind control slave. Now, she didn't say the words mind control slave. I don't know if I would have known what that was anyway back then, but, like, I think I would have been able to figure that out pretty quickly. Like, what she said was that there were, like, certain words that anybody, like me or anyone else, like, that they could say. Like, they'd have to learn what the code words were, but, like, if they said certain words a certain way, like, that they could make her do anything they wanted her to do. And I thought, like, we were on the phone, and I thought she was messing with me, but it was weird because she never, like, messed with me. I was the one that, like, played pranks. I was kind of like the, I don't know, I was weird. I was a weird kid. I was kind of like I want to say I was like Cartman a little bit. I was kind of mean. Like, I could have, that Scott Tinnerman episode really, like, resonated with me. That's a story for another day, though. But anyway, I was the one that would do things like that. She was kind of the pushover. Like, she wouldn't play jokes on me or play tricks. She was just, like, sweet, and the punchline was always how like what a jerk I was, right? So it was weird. Like, I couldn't imagine her, playing a joke on me. And she does, like, she didn't make things up for attention, or she was just never that kind of person. And I wouldn't have been friends with somebody like that, because I don't know, I never liked people like that. And I remember her saying that I could say certain words and that would make her do whatever I want her to do. So I thought we were playing a game, right, on the phone. And I was just, like, totally caught off guard. This was so weird. But she told me whatever the words were, and I don't remember, but I will explain why I don't remember in here in just a minute. Whatever those words were, and I couldn't think of anything to tell her to do right on the spot, so I told her to go be Buffy the Vampire Slayer for an hour, which is ironic now that I think about it, because pretty much, like, I'm pretty sure all of Joss Whedon's stuff was about these little MK Ultra, you know, kittens and assassins and whatever, but I told her to go be Buffy the Vampire Slayer for an hour, that she had to, like, put on the, like dress up like her, get, like, a bag of steaks and whatever, and then just go around and, I don't know, I assumed she was going to, like stake trees or imaginary vampire. I didn't know. It was a really stupid suggestion, but I didn't know what else to say. Well, she, like, was, like, okay, and she put the phone down, and I don't remember if, like, we hung up or if I think I waited on the line or something, but at one point, like, it was like 30 minutes in, I was totally weirded out. I was like, what is going on? This is just weird. I either, like, hung up and called her mom's line, like, there was 2 different lines in the house, or, like, her mom picked up the phone, or I don't remember, but somehow I got on the phone with her mom, and I was trying to spy on Jaylen. I was trying to, I shouldn't have said anything. I was trying to spy on her and find out what she was doing, if she was really doing what I had told her to do. And so I was, like, just telling her mom, like, okay, so she told me that, you know, that there's certain words I could say, like, code words that would make her do whatever I wanted, you know, and I'm, like, laughing, like, huh, like, I'm thinking I've busted her, right, like, you know, oh, I asked your mom if that's true, and, you know, I'm asking your mom, if you're really doing that, are you out slaying vampires, or are you just, like, sitting on the couch eating chips until an hour goes by? And, like, you know, I didn't think, I mean, her mom had never been anything but, like, a pushover, like, super nice to me, and she, like, fucking lost it. Like, she flipped. Like, I just, like, I don't even think I finished what I was saying before she started just screaming and cussing at me over the phone, like, totally, like, different. I'd never heard her ever behave that way. And I also never had anybody's parent mad at me, let alone my best friend's parent, like. And I was horrified and so confused, like, because I didn't know what I had done wrong, you know. And it wasn't about the fact that, like, she was out playing Buffy. Like, I mean, we were, you know, like 9 or 10 by this point, but that wasn't it. It was the fact of what my friend had told me. Like, that's when she started to yell at me, was about that. And the really weird thing is I remember the yelling. I remember my horror and confusion and just bewilderment, and then I don't remember anything. I don't remember, like, really, like, how that got resolved. I did not remember any of this until my friend brought it back up to me at late 2015. Like, and it wasn't that she suggested a memory to me, because as soon as she told, like, just brought it up, like, oh, but I told you this when we, you know, when we were, like, you know, 10 or 11, I forget, it's like 9. No, it was not 9. So it was like a 10 or 11. Cause I think we were, like, almost in 6th grade or something. But, and the memory returned to me immediately, like, the whole memory, you know, of that whole day and everything. Like, it wasn't like something she had to reconstruct for me. And she just mentioned, like, the Buffy thing, and it was like, oh yeah, but I had no access to that memory all this time, and I don't know, like, been almost 20 years, and this was not something I would have ever forgotten, ever. Like, I would never have forgotten this, because this was really, really awful to have her mom just go two-faced on me like that, like, just start yelling and cussing. I mean, I don't even know if I'd ever had a grown-up out, like, aside from my family, like, yell at me like that. And she was cursing, and it was just, and I was always, like, the kind of kid where I needed to know exactly what I was being accused of, what I supposedly did wrong. Like, I was well behaved, but, you know, I was pretty, like a little attorney, right? You know, and I, you know, I would get real indignant about anybody accusing me of something I didn't do, or whatever. Like, if I was going to get in trouble, I better damn well agree that it was for good reason, right? I didn't know my place. And I know myself, and I remembered any kind of incidents, even way more minor like this, like with somebody's parent, I remembered. But the fact that I forgot, like with my best friend, you know, and whose parents I was, like, the closest to, that was not natural. That was totally unnatural. And And I realized that, like, she had done something over the phone, like, or you know, maybe or after, but she had either like a spell or something, but she had veiled that memory all this time to where I would not have access to it. And because I've never had a memory return like this one did, like, just like it was just there, it was vivid, and just, you know, just because somebody, you know, mentioned it to me, it was just weird, like, 'cause, you know, anyway, so like I said, like, there was a lot of things, a lot of red flags that I would have, you know, that I should have known, but nobody knows, especially back then, like, I mean, this is the 90s, nobody knew about this stuff, like, nobody was talking about it, you know, I didn't know what I was looking at, and, so, my friend was in Orlando at the time, and she was just about to have to go down to her parents for the holidays in the Keys, like she always does, you know, and, she was really, like, emotional, and, like, all these memories were, like, flooding all the time, and she was having horrible, like, panic attacks and stuff, and I did not know what I was getting into, even broaching this subject with her, but there were reasons why I thought it would be helpful because of certain things going on in her life that were inexplicable, and that she thought maybe she was going insane, you know. But I was a psych major, and like, and with one thing I learned from that useless education is, you know, you can't call somebody crazy, you know, insane, psychotic, just because you know, like, because they tell you something that sounds incredible to you. Like, there are going to be other signs. It's not just going to be that they tell you something that, you know, you just don't accept or can't believe. It just sounds like, you know, wild to you. Like, their speech patterns. I mean, there's going to be other signs of psychosis rather than just, well, I don't, like, for instance, like, I don't believe in aliens or UFOs, and you said that you saw one, so you must be psychotic. Like, that's not how that works. So, anyway, she went down to her family's house for the holidays because she was afraid not to. She was afraid. She thought maybe they might not know that she had found out, or, like, that I had found out, you know, if she just did everything as normal, and that if she didn't go, that they would immediately know, right? Well, you know, I mean, we didn't factor in, like, the fact that she was probably monitored electronically for one thing, but for another, you know, most likely she has alters that were reporting back every single thing to her family. So I you know, I was still very new at all of this, and her family, you know, when she went down there, I mean, you know, from what she took her boyfriend with her boyfriend Shale, and you know, he was a witness to all of this. And he did not believe in any of this. He was like a Democrat and, like, a liberal. He had, like, no inclination to believe in Pizzagate or satanic ritual abuse, you know, and he went down there, and, you know, he was a believer once he went down there, once he left, because of how bizarre everything went and all the very bizarre things that happened. And essentially her family, like, basically they confirmed it, like, they admitted it, like, to me, and just generally, like, to her. I mean, not in front of the boyfriend, like, they were cagey about it in front of him, but when she was on the phone with me, you know, they said things to me over the phone that were very, very strange, and that only could mean one thing. And it was very smug. It was like, oh, wow, you finally figured it out. Well, we knew you would. You're a smart girl. And they kind of give me veiled threats, like, be careful or you'll put an eye out, which made no sense whatsoever, except in some weird occult threat way. But they weren't worried about me. Like, they were not at all afraid that I was going to somehow blow the lid off of this thing and, you know, bring the coppers in on them. Like, I mean, they were very high level. I later realized, you know, like, they have no reason to worry about what little old me knows. What was weird was she was able to come stay with me after this visit, you know, and there was a lot of things that happened at that visit, but, and I'll have to go into that later, but the fact, when she came to stay with me, I should have known that wasn't like, oh, they just let her, you know, because they, you know, whatever, they I don't know, they respect her free will, or they just care about our friendship so much that, you know, they don't want to keep us apart, even though I'm like an outsider who now knows that they are Luciferians who have programmed their daughter and all, you know, but I didn't know, I was close with these people. So in my mind, I thought maybe there was still enough love between us that like they weren't going to keep her from me, right? And that, you know, maybe they were confident that I couldn't do anything to help her, you know. And at this time I was not saved, so that makes sense in a way. But just the fact that I had already been messing with her programming, and I had caused her front altar, the person I had always known to be her, you know, it was anchored to me because we'd known each other our whole life. The fact that I had compromised her front altar's programming by making it aware of its programming, I'm sure that was a very big deal, very destabilizing, at exactly the wrong age. 30 is the exact age when the programming starts to crumble. And I should have known that they wouldn't have just let her come to my house for no reason. I mean, I'm all the way across the country in Indiana. She had never, you know, been here or lived here. But anyway, I learned the hard way that they had ulterior motives. And I will have to finish all of this in a later video, but basically she, I thought I was trying to help her deprogram while she was here. And keep in mind, I was verging on the idea that the Bible was true, you know, even from the beginning of the time she got here, just from all of the satanic ramifications and everything. But you know, I was not saved until in the middle of this experience, right? Like and when the demon fled, there was a demon that was attached to her, and it kept manifesting, and this has happened before I even knew about any of this. I didn't know it was attached to her. I just thought there was like I thought we saw like some ghost or something. But anyway, it like kept bothering my house and everything, you know, while she was here, and it fled only the name of Jesus. Like, I was very reluctant to try the name of Jesus, and yet when it eventually appeared to my 3-year-old in her bedroom and she called it a doggy, my friend and I both, like, just instinctively, we said the Lord's Prayer specifically, and you know, I don't even know how we like rebuked it. We said the Lord's Prayer, and, you know, basically rebuked it in the name of Jesus. And I don't even think I wanted it to work at that point, because it would mean I was wrong about everything in life ever. But it was like an instinct. Like, it got serious at that point, that it was showing up to my child, and you know, she was seeing it so clear that she was calling it a doggy, and you know, it never showed up in my